back. Another episode of It Be Your Will. I'm following this trend of inviting artists back on, but now I've doubled up the pleasure. I have piano here out of Vancouver. Great indie band that's been around for a long time. I have Nick and Larissa here, two of the founding members. And today we're going to kind of explore exactly this 17-year break that they had and what's on the table for the future. So thanks so much, Larissa and Nick, for hopping on here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this has been really fun. I've been so looking forward to it. Nick, we had such a great conversation in our previous podcast that, it was just so rich and genuine and authentic and just amazing.
I love that too. Yeah, it sticks out for me also. You caught me at my most blissed out and relaxed, compared to this morning, which everything's fine, but it's just, you caught me at a real unique time. So for me.
No, it was in Serbia. Nick, am I right in saying that?
It was in
where
Croatia.
Croatia.
Yeah.
Perfect. He was on a beach, chilling, beer in hand, waves splashing in the background, sun beating down, with his loving family all around him. So amazing.
Yeah.
And Larissa, well, welcome to If It Be Your Will. I've been really looking forward to talking with the two of you about the resurrection of piano. Was one of my favorites growing up, the records you guys put out. And then lo and behold, here we have this new one that kind of popped out of almost nowhere. I've been kind of reading the literature, and Ba 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 was like not on very many radars, and then it is, which is amazing because it's such a great collection of songs. Why don't we rewind time a little bit and just how did piano get started? Larissa, I'll throw this to you first. What was the origins of you and Nick starting to collaborate together?
We met through my sister, actually, Jessica. She and Nick had been hanging out. I think it was their last year of high school or something like that. I'd already graduated, or I was something like that. But I was on my way to college, and Jessica and Nick were hanging out, and at some point she was saying I think you and Nick have more in common than he and I do. We were both rabid music fans, and we were going to shows and wanting to do cool stuff, and then we just sort of started hanging out and almost immediately started playing music together, and Nick would play piano and I would sing harmonies with him, and we just started writing music out of that.
Mm-hmm. And play the trumpet.
Oh yeah, I played the trumpet. Yep.
And we kind of roped Jess into playing oboe a little bit too.
Yeah, that didn't last very long.
Nope.
Well, it seems too that instrumentation kind of is around it fluctuates from artist to artist. You guys are play so many different instruments, so it allows for that beautiful variety.
Yeah, there's point where I played accordion a bunch, which I really enjoyed, and keyboards and stuff like that. And Nick goes back and forth between guitar and piano and ukulele.
This was pre-YouTube ukulele. It was still a YouTube commercial ukulele. I feel it was still
And Nick, what was it about Larissa that kind of clicked with you and your vision of music and what you were doing and wanted to do?
I think at the time it was just a new friend that was also interested in music, and I didn't have tons of music-y friends at the time really in high school. So it was just kindred spirit vibes, even though our tastes were kind of dissimilar, but there was enough in the middle of the Venn diagram.
Sarah McLachlan.
She was in the middle. At the time, I think we were kind of bashful about that.
Yeah. Even then.
At the time.
Yeah.
Now we've both embraced it. But I remember maybe still one of your most beloved bands is Pulp, and Britpop and all that sort of stuff was a little bit too theatrical, and I was just far more just indie pilled, dreamy indie, soft melancholy, just
Yeah, I was into like Björk and Radiohead and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, which I was familiar with to a degree too, obviously, but we just grew up at the same time.
Mhm.
But yeah, like if we swapped mixtapes, I remember one you gave me that had like all these goth bands too, like Alien Sex Fiend, and like
Is it Mercy?
Einstein's and Neubauten or whatever, and yeah, which I actually really liked, especially around that time. Silence is Sexy came out, and I really loved that one.
That was great.
So yeah, there was just, I guess what I'm trying to get at is like there was a unique passion for opposite ends of the spectrum, but then enough weird stuff in the middle that was kind of like rich territory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
And plus, yeah, no one else was around really. It was just like, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was the suburbs.
Yeah, we didn't really know.
The late 90s.
Yeah, we just suburbs, late 90s. And there was no plan. We were just doing it for fun.
Yeah, and this is pre-social media, phones, like easy connecting. Like you must have had to work at or put effort into playing together at that time when you first started playing together.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And I mean, not to Sarah McLachlan, her first record. I mean, amazing. I don't know what happened after that record, but that first record you put out was amazing.
Yeah, I'm a touch head, but I'm a huge fumbling towards it. We're fumbling heads, and yeah, I listen to Solace all the time. The first three for me personally.
Right. So how did it start off? Like, were you both bringing songs into the mix and like kind of producing one another? Like, how did that start the collaboration between the songwriting process?
I've never written songs for piano.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I just Nick usually brings something to the table and then we flush it out.
Yeah. So I guess compositionally, Larissa always comes up with her own parts and the arrangements are collaborative. But yeah, I've always brought in at least some sort of skeleton of an entire finished thing. Yeah, that's just always been the way. Because you didn't even really write songs at all until later.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, that's basically why, if to fast forward a tiny bit, why I left. I was just like, I need to figure this out on my own.
Right.
So, but piano wasn't the place to do that, and it still isn't for me.
Yeah. Right. And Nick, what did Larissa bring to the songs that fit with your songwriting? Like, what aspect of her musicality influenced or infused into the songs that you?
At the time I was just so naive. I didn't know what was going on, and I was just kind of following instincts or whatever. So I didn't even. It's only with years of remove that I've been able to like kind of be like, oh wait, like I didn't even really know how to harmonize, for example. Like I remember Larissa, like maybe we were in my parents' basement or something, and you were like, see, if I sing this note, you sing the, and you were just teaching me about thirds. But like, I think I just unfairly regarded what Larissa did as being like witchcraft or something, like, because I would sing a thing and then all of a sudden I would hear something that was instantly pleasing and like exactly what needed to be there. But I didn't really have enough like awareness of what was happening at the time to really be like, oh, there's like compositional choices being made and like parts that were supporting and rich, like making whatever the top line melodies were more rich. So I guess it was the main thing was just like the harmonies she was coming up with that complemented the songs I was making.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Larissa, what was it about Nick's songs that sung to you?
I like that they, referenced our small world and, they weren't so much about like the bigger overarching things that pop music is usually about, which is something I've tried to take into my own songwriting later as well. I'm like, oh yeah, like not every song needs to be a love song or a breakup song or a, I'm sad song or whatever. You can write about mundane things, but blow them up in a way that, lets you examine them in detail and it's kind of like literally stopping to smell the roses,
Oh, that's really cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool. It's very accurate. Like, I mean, I guess you've had this perspective for a long time, but it totally rings true to me as well. What you just said.
It's
And
universal
Larissa,
stuff.
yeah, absolutely,
Still.
absolutely. But like, kind of like turning it into something that needed to be looked at a little bit more, or like slow down. What about this? Larissa, what was it where you found piano shifted it from becoming just something you guys did out of high school to, wait a minute, we have something really special here? Like, do you remember those early moments when piano started to kind of get some traction in the music industry?
Yeah, I remember we were playing at the sugar refinery a lot on Granville Street and we could fill the place and that was
Mm.
weird. I mean, we didn't have any context for that, so we didn't know if it was special or not, or that's just what happens when you have a band. But yeah, people took notice kind of early on, and still think like I felt like I was too young then to appreciate it because again, I had no context. I'd never played in a band before, and it played out the way it did. But it's almost more like hindsight as well, where you look back and you're like, oh, that was special and that was cool, and that's not the way it always goes.
No, I'm in the same boat as Larissa. Like thinking about it now, we never had to try get a show.
Mhm.
Someone would always invite us. We didn't have to try figure out how to record anything. Some like Colin Stewart, who recorded the first 4 records, like jumped out of an alley after a show and was like, I want to record it. He did it for free. You know what I mean? Like we were just like, and we didn't really have a band, and he assembled like local people he knew that, I don't know. So like a lot of things just kind of were plopped on our lap, and we didn't have enough perspective, and we're so naive that we just kind of like, oh, is this how you start a band? I don't know. It's crazy.
And people believed in us enough to want to help in that way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. I talked to a musician recently, and he said his tipping point was when he didn't have to invite people to the show anymore.
Yeah.
They would come, and he found that fascinating as well, with what you guys just mentioned. If you guys kind of look at your first part of piano, those first few records, I read that the sound evolved with each of those records, and we won't touch on Ba 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 yet because we'll talk about that in a minute. But those earlier records, how did you guys kind of develop the piano sound and then play around with it? Nick, you want to take a shot at that? Or Larissa? Yeah, sure.
I think the music dictated how it sounded, if that makes sense. Like the songs sort of lent themselves either to being highly orchestrated or very minimal, or, it was, and a lot of the time, I feel like they didn't change a lot, from their inception, right, to the time that they were recorded, including with the new stuff. It was, it just was organic.
Yeah. But I think also my impulse, especially back then, was to always kind of, to some degree or another, do the opposite of the thing that came before. So there was like some wild swings as far as approach. But the first album really was just kind of like songs that I was making up as a teenager, that in high school, that we were working on together, and made that album very kind of haphazardly with just like like other local musicians or whatever. And I love how it turned out. I still really love that one. It feels like, because we just had no idea what we were doing, but we weirdly had some sort of confidence and belief in what we were doing. And
I think as music fans, we understood aesthetics,
Oh yeah. Big time.
So
yeah, totally.
It wasn't an accident.
Yeah. So like maybe in some ways we were like quite sophisticated. In some ways we were like quite just like, whoa. So yeah. And then the second thing, the Den, is like, I think the reception to the first one, and I mean, it's like, it's also embarrassing, but like all of a sudden, like ambition and like ego and stuff kind of started like creeping into the picture way more than I wished it did. but I mean, I was like 19, 20, and we got like a Canada Council grant at the time for recording. And I think it was like maybe $12,000 or something. But to me, as a teen, that seemed like 500,000, or like that seemed like a huge budget that you should ought
for what it was.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But like and so all of a sudden I was like, oh, so kind of compelled to like make something grandiose. But it was also kind of based in these kind of feelings that I had as a kid, like really being into musicals and show tunes and just like lush orchestration and the coziness of kind of like, well, yeah, all of that. So it wasn't just trying to go big for the sake of it. Like the impulse was, but it was.
We had the means suddenly to make something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's pretty big validation too at that age to have money to create music. Like, what an opportunity.
Totally.
And I mean, you guys totally seized on it. And produced, I mean, again, I think all of your records are amazing, but they all kind of like children, you know, they're all very individual and, you know, loved equally throughout. So 17 years, like, Larissa, you had mentioned at the start of this that
I'm missing some of this, unfortunately. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear all right now? I'll try to keep listening.
Still don't hear anything.
But Larissa, you had mentioned that, like, you kind of came to a realization.
It could be these things.
It could be.
Okay, it's the headphones. Okay, I'm with you.
Okay.
Cool. So the impulse to kind of start doing your own thing after being in piano for a while, kind of made the band kind of go off in separate ways. What was that 17 years between this last one musically? What filled that gap between those years, between the, you know, that album and then this one that just came out?
Yeah, I recorded 4 solo albums under the name Larissa, that were all put out by Mint Records that helped to put out some of the piano albums. That was, mainly an exploration of like lots of vocals and synthesizers and darker themes, perhaps. And then I was in the choir practice, which was also a very vocals heavy group for a couple of years, and Fake Tears was a synth pop duo, and I did a little bit of touring as sort of a backup singer and keyboard player. I played with Destroyer and How to Dress Well, and so I sort of just explored a bunch of different alleyways, you know. I'm still. I always say I'm a lifelong musician, you know. I'm like, I'll just keep doing stuff, and it wasn't like I was searching for any one thing, you know, but it was just, I felt like I had to close that piano chapter at the time in order to explore some other things. Just because I think as a young person, like, I was always just associated with that band and with Nick, and I was just like, who am I musically when that's not there? And, you know, what might have been if that didn't happen, you know?
Right.
And so
it led to years of great collaborations and self-discovery, and also, how did it feel to be on the end of the songwriter, of writing your own, you know, lyrics and accompaniment? And
that I knew I had that in me as well. And but I just also knew, like, you know, Nick said we were different enough, like, in our tastes and stuff, that I didn't feel right bringing that kind of stuff to piano, because it just wasn't the way we do it.
Right.
I don't even think we talked about it. It was just so it wasn't like a choice. It was just kind of just like, I don't know.
Yeah. And like, I didn't want to step on Nick's toes. And I didn't want to bring my choices, you know, that way into the group, because it was working the way it was, you know.
Right. That's cool. And Nick, you went on to also, I mean, keep writing and writing and writing. One thing I've noticed that you guys love to collaborate. Like collaboration seems to be like very valuable in your musical journey. Nick, can you talk a bit to that of collaborating with other artists and why you find it almost a necessity to like find other musicians and I don't know, like what's your idea on collaboration?
I feel like it's just kind of, I love the idea of just kind of staying open and just seeing what will happen. And so I don't think I've actually beat the bushes to look for collaborators necessarily, but I just like the idea of, just playing around, like hopping in the pool with some, or I don't know. It's just to see what comes up. And it's fun to just be around energies that can, just like kind of realize something in a way that might be unexpected if it was just up to you. But also I have made some certain projects completely by myself also, and there's a joy there too. So it's not a necessity. I just like, it feels healthy to include other ideas and just see how it goes.
Do you find that collaborators also allow you to kind of discover different hallways in your musical mansion?
Yeah, for sure. Because I feel anytime even just working with different maybe engineers or producers or just I'm kind of spongy. Like I pick up things every single project, even one. Yeah. And so it gets thrown in the stew.
So Larissa, 17 years go by. I mean, Nick mentioned, he kind of alluded to piano something was brewing when we spoke, must be a year and a half ago or so, Nick, something like that. It was not this past summer, but the summer before. How did it start? How did that 17 years come to a close, and then this blossoming of this new record that came out?
We got that the invitation to do the anniversary compilation there, so we decided to do a cover together. But yeah, before that, Nick and I had hung out once or twice and had sort of talked about how it had been 20 years since our first record came out, and how we might want to do something somehow to commemorate that. So the seeds have been planted a little bit. And then once we started recording, we were like, oh yeah, we're all in a room together again, and it's fun. This is with Justin and Julia, are also longtime collaborators. And we just thought, let's take this and run with it.
And again, Nick brought the songs into the piano.
Yeah, and he started one by one bringing new tracks to us.
Okay. So it wasn't all like, here's how many songs are on this record?
No.
10 songs. It was kind of piecemeal.
Yeah, but they came very quickly and almost like very easily. And I like
almost every time we got together for practice, there was a new song,
Yeah, or sometimes two, which is kind of similar to like the way we were originally too. Like back then I wrote a lot while I worked lots of like shift work, like overnight and stuff. And I would work in my head and like write on the back of our time cards, like lyrics. And I'd have stacks of new songs because I was just kind of spacing out. And I kind of wrote most of this one in my head also. So I don't know how to explain it, but like I felt guided. Like these songs happened mainly because I just feel like we needed to play music together again. So like, it was something. Yeah, there was, I don't know. Yeah, I'm still kind of like shocked of the ease of which all the songs appeared and how much we all kind of, speaking for, like I enjoy them and like, or just like,
and how quickly it all came together too. Like we have a record now.
Right?
We started rehearsing maybe a year and a half ago.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just like, wow, I thought it would be a single or something like that, a little teaser, but 10 songs, full record. And Nick, were these written with piano in mind? Like these songs you specifically wrote with that idea that these would become?
Yeah, 200%. Like,
right.
Yeah. Right. And also because a lot of them, content-wise, also is kind of about us to varying degrees. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
So yeah, there it is. Like, it's abstract in some ways, but also there's some like memoir qualities to this record.
It's like nostalgic, but also like current.
Yeah, and also like I was thinking about it a little bit as if what happened if we made an album after When It's Dark and It's Summer before we got the grant and I got a little too like over and bit. Like, what if we just kind of, it was like a little bit of revisionist history, a little parallel universe. Be like, oh, what if we kind of just
followed that track?
That's cool.
Yeah.
And Larissa, the songs that Nick was bringing in, was it enough? Like, did it flood back all those piano aesthetics and just playing together? Like, were the songs different in a way? Like, just with that time and distance between when you first started recording and to this record?
It really
did his
felt the
songwriting shift a bit?
It really felt the same, and I kept sort of musing to myself and to others about how, we're all 17 years older, but like we're all the same people still, and that dynamic was still there, the good and the bad, just like the weirdness of it all. And but I also like I didn't struggle with coming up with parts, and it was very comfortable to just fall back into that pattern of how Nick and I play together and sing together. And it's like I think about like even the way I sing, and I'm like, I don't know if I've sung like this in 17 years. I feel like I've been singing a bit differently, but like there's something shifts when I'm in this room with these people.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And kind of like, I mean, it only came out on the 17th of September, but if you put a little bit of distance in between, the whole production coming back together, writing all these songs, how do you guys see this record now? Like in the piano catalog, where does it fit in with the stuff that you guys did, almost 2 decades prior?
I feel like it's just this natural progression, it's it was like, it's that same thing with sort of the lifelong musician concept. It's just like, it could have been 2 years, it could have been 17 years, I mean, it's maybe not the record we would have made then, but it is what had to be.
For sure. Nick, what do you think? What's your perspective now after it's done?
Yeah, there's like I have many thoughts about it, but like in general, because like I was saying, I kind of envisioned it kind of as if we made it in 2003 or something instead of 2023. But it was fun. Like when you're a teenager, I feel like you're really still trying to figure out your identity, and often that's through the things you like. So you're expressing and kind of cosplaying, presenting the things you like as being part of you before you even really know who you are yet. And so early on, I feel like I was really trying to, be Belle and Sebastian, be Low, be Yola Tango or whatever. And now this time it was almost more, it just like over time, because I've had such a relationship with these influences and stuff, it's like actually part of me. So whatever, even if it is kind of Belle and Sebastian or Yola, it's done with like, it's not an archness, but it's like, this is just for better or for worse, like who I am, because these are the things that I love. And so like, there wasn't the ambition to be them. It's just, we are just them. Yeah.
It's like,
what a thing to come to as well.
It's like an homage, reverence.
Yeah. And it can only come over time and like by growing and living. So that's what's kind of cool about it, to kind of like, so overtly think about and work with things that you were so familiar with and inspired by as a young person, but doing it, synthesized as a, older.
Great.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I want to thank you too for taking some time to come and talk. I mean, just amazing reflections and stories, and this has been a real treat. To kind of wrap things up, Larissa, what's on your docket now for the next year, music-wise? What could you share with us about what you might be working on or collaborating with?
I don't know. I've been kind of leaving it open, and I left Mint like 2 years ago, right before this piano reunion happened, and I didn't know that it was happening. Like I felt myself clearing my schedule, but I wasn't sure why. And then a couple of things filled the void in the meantime. But I keep saying this. Piano reunion was not on my bingo card for 2023, but here it is, and I'm just sort of embracing it and going with the flow. And yeah, and then I've just been I don't know. I can't really talk about current music projects. I've got like lots of little things on the go, but I think of it more like work, and less about like my expression as a musician at the moment. But it's still, I like to have my fingers in a few pies.
For sure. Good. We like the pies you
totally
make.
Clear.
We love the pies you make. And Nick, what's in store for piano like over the next little bit? Are there future plans, or is it kind of an exclamation on your piano career? What can you share anyway?
Yeah, I don't know. The only thing that springs to mind is we have been rehearsing the whole time in this little field house that's in a park, and we only have access to that to the end of the year. So I love being in there. So I kind of want us to get together and like see, I don't know, play around more. Mm-hmm. But also losing a practice space is compelling. There's an actual like real like rock and roll rehearsal space in the neighborhood nearby. And I was like thinking conceptually, like if you have to pay a rental to go down this hallway where everyone's, playing Metallica covers down the hallway or whatever, it'd be fun to like come up with some real loud music and they're going into the
we enjoy rocking
into these practice spaces with Larissa and Justin and
one thing,
so it's all.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say one thing we have not done is like play old songs.
That's true.
So we have toyed with the idea of it, but we haven't done it yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like remixing, re-envisioning old songs, or can we play them exactly how we recorded them?
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
All the above.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
And then also I just when I was in Japan in April, Joseph and our tour mates, the Tennis Coats, made an album, so that's coming out at some point early next year, I think. But outside of that, I'm kind of in Larissa's boat too, just kind of seeing. Oh, like we'll always be making stuff, I'm sure. So
yeah, we might do some touring or something like that. Just tour/vacations.
Yeah, and that's also kind of the thing that I feel is so like unique about doing all this with piano now is like I feel just like we're so chill about everything, and we're not. No one's shooting for the stars. It's not even in our nature to shoot for the stars, let alone actually try to shoot for the stars. So it's like we are literally just doing this because it's fun.
Well,
like we
your fun equals our fun, right? Right.
We didn't want to talk to anyone about putting out the record or anything, so we just did it ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's a pleasant surprise. I just want to, like you said, more of a rocking like tune, or that idea of what song off of this record do you find is closest to that jam space rocking out song?
You
guys have one in
house? Yeah. It's kind of that's
number
that's 3.
One we'll put that one at the end.
Perfect.
You get this vision of the rocking out piano.
Yep.
From chamber pop to hard rock. Well, thanks so much, guys. Again, what a pleasure. I'm sure my listeners are going to love this conversation. And I just wish you all the best. I love kind of keeping it kind of like mysterious as well. Like, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
No, either way.
So definitely be reaching back out to you guys if there's more surprises coming down.
Yeah.
So again, thanks so much. And it was really good to see you, Nick, and nice to meet you, Larissa.
Likewise. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're the best, Chris. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Doing the things that I might have done so mindlessly when I was young, watching the bottom fall out over and over, over and out now. Singing some song that I might have sung without really knowing what's going on. Is it time that's blotted out so much, or is it me? As night falls on Coquitlam, hang the moon above the new buildings, above a new skyline that you barely see. Don't worry you, don't worry me. Swapping memories in and out, revising histories, losing count. I did the hokey pokey, then turned myself around and drove into town. I've been to your place, and you've been to mine. Childhood bedrooms, still fresh in my mind. The smell of your parents' house, faint in the air. Funny what just goes nowhere.